Handsome, right? Yeah, and he's single, ready to mingle. Yeah, and by the way, before I begin, let me wish those of you who are celebrating your birthday. It's in one sense, it's fun, it is joyful. But on the other hand, I don't know, during my time when I was celebrating my birthday, it was fun. Yeah, people wish you. But on the other hand, it reminds you of the fact that you're becoming older, isn't it? Yeah, you always want to stay young. Yeah, I used to tell people that when you look at me now, I have less hair, but back then I was far more handsome than I am right now. Huh? So anyway, so without taking much time, I really deeply appreciate the time that you've given, and I will not be speaking so much of technical things, but I just want to actually speak and share with you a word of wisdom, especially when it comes to this very important topic, right? On humanity and the questions of artificial intelligence. Today, we are all being surrounded by different kinds of technology in today's context, isn't it? Today, you have mobile phones, you have everything. I think we are being surrounded by artificial intelligence. But we want to actually see today how intelligent are these artificial intelligence, right? And so we will be looking at some of these important things as well. But before I go, I really tested, I was sharing with some of my friends as I was reflecting on the talk that I want to share with you this morning. I was testing if really the artificial intelligence that surrounds us is really intelligent or not. And so, as you all know, we have Alexa at home, you call, or if you have your Apple phone, you can just simply call Siri, right? And so I tried out, and I said to my Siri, I press out my mobile phone, Apple phone, and I said, Siri, kindly call my wife. Siri, kindly call my wife. And you know what response I got? And there were 2-3 contacts in my mobile phone that spoke about, like, how you register names when you save the number, right? So I wrote one name which belongs to one contractor called as Bonus. He used to drill water underground. Bonus wife, right? And then there is another name called Durba's wife, right? And there are another name, wives of so-and-so. And so all these wives' name came, and then it said, which wife? I said, Siri, you idiot. I said, my wife, not other people's wife. So I said, after all, Siri is not as intelligent as we all think that Siri is, right? So today we will be looking at this important topic. Now, how many of you recognize this picture? Sophia, right? And how many of you know the story behind it? For the first time in the year 2017, in the month of October, Saudi Arabia granted Sophia a lifelike robot powered by artificial intelligence software, a citizenship in Saudi Arabia. The first citizen in Saudi Arabia. Now, of course, there are different reasons why this very nation had given citizenship. Now, of course, there are also political reasons for actually trying to establish that they are the one who's leading the world in this very area. And that is why they've granted, trying to actually establish that we are the leaders in this very area. But then, it also raises several other important questions that we need to actually see. Because in other words, if you grant a robot like Sophia citizenship, it is very much elevating Sophia to the level of the rights of any citizen living in Saudi Arabia. Granting citizenship here in our country as well would actually mean that these robot-like, machine also have the rights like you and I have. So now it raises a different question, isn't it? Granting citizenship is one thing, but raising other important questions as well that we need to keep in mind. Now, before we go a little bit further, I want to actually share with you that this very important decision also brings to our attention several questions. Now, some of these questions are, what is artificial intelligence? Before we even look at the quality of what are we discussing, we need to first define what is artificial intelligence. Secondly, will intelligent machines rise up and overtake humanity. I'm sure many of us have seen and have watched movies, right? Where you found that, the machines are really rising up, and now they're trying to actually overtake humanity. So much so that I forget this movie that I saw a few weeks ago. It's also about the fact that this machine is overtaking the city of man. They're becoming very smart, intelligent, and they are actually, trying to show different traits as well. But then the other important question is, in what sense will technology change what it means to be human? Today, this very question is very important. What does it mean to be human? I'm a veterinarian by technical expertise. So most of my years I've lived with animals, trying to understand, to treat them, and to see different important aspects. But never in my lifetime have I ever come to the point of seeing that these animals have tried to create a conference or a special lecture like this one. What does it mean to be a dog? What does it mean to be a cow? Have you heard a conference like that? But today, people are talking about this important issue. What does it mean to be a human? And so that is why this important question is worthy of our discussion and our attention. If AI system can be created with self-awareness and emotional capacity, what makes them any different from any human being? Then furthermore, will we be able to construct artificial life and super intelligence? That is what we will be looking at. And then, is a silicon-based computer any different from one made up of organic matter? What implication do advances in AI have on our perspective or our worldviews? What is a worldview? A worldview is how you look at the world, right? So how will it impact our worldviews in general, and especially the question of God, right? Because this question now is, are we trying to play God when we are trying to meddle around with all these machines? That is the question that is at the very outset that we need to discuss. So what is artificial intelligence? First of all, the term artificial intelligence was coined in the year 1956 by the American computer scientist John McCarthy, who defines it as getting a computer to do things, right, which when done by people are said to involve intelligence. Can you think of any example? What is those machines that can really actually fulfill certain tasks that when commanded can do some things like, that human can do? I can't help but think of a simple calculator, right? Or even for that matter, a toaster machine that toasts bread, and so on and so forth, because they execute the command that you give to this particular machine. So this is important. So now, what are the different types of AI? There are two kinds of artificial intelligence that we need to keep in mind. Number one, it is the narrow artificial intelligence, and the other one is the general intelligence artificial. Now, what are these? The narrow one would actually mean the capability of a machine to perform a more limited number and a range of intellectual tasks a human can do. So in a limited sense, like the calculator, it will not actually do anything else apart from just calculating the numbers that we feed into that machine. So that, in a narrow sense, is artificial intelligence, only limited. But the other important thing that can raise many ethical questions is general intelligence, artificial general intelligence, which is what? The capability of a machine to perform many or of all the intellectual tasks a human can do. Now, this is where we are talking about trying to create a machine that will perform different things that you and I are capable of. Now, that is something that is a concern, right? Because there are different people who are trying to actually say that we need to create something that is far more bigger than what you and I are, a super intelligence. Now, even we are talking about different developments that I see. Even yesterday, when I landed here in this city, even the airport, the new airport that is coming up, is also being geared up and driven so much by artificial intelligence. We'll be talking about that in a little bit later. Now, let me just simply get into artificial intelligence, the narrow, important aspect in the limited sense. Now, an artificial intelligence system uses mathematical algorithms that sort, filter, and select from a large database. Now, when you go to Amazon and when you actually want to buy stuff, and you will notice that it is depending upon your history of items that you have bought, that what they normally do is they will actually filter in the different things that you could possibly like in that same category, and they will continue to feed it to you on a regular basis, isn't it? When you open your phone, you will see, oh, people who have bought this shirt or this material have also bought other material. How is it that this computer system can really come up with that kind of a preference? It almost seems that you are being tempted to buy more and more, right? So that is, in a sense, a narrow artificial intelligence. Now, furthermore, the system can learn to identify and interpret digital patterns such as images, sound, speech, text, data, and extra. It then uses computer applications to statistically analyze the available information and estimate the probability of a particular hypothesis. Now, similarly, when you look at the phone, when you first buy your phone, especially an Apple phone, I don't know about the other phones, they will actually ask you before you set up the phone to use. They will do a facial recognition. They will also do the test of your voice, that you can open the phone based on your voice and nobody else can do. Now, you don't have to use a password, but you can just simply put it just in front of your face and it will open up. But if you put in front of other people's face, it will not open, right? Although we have similar faces, but it will not open. That is what, in a narrow sense, we talk about the capacity of a narrow artificial intelligence. And then you also have a machine learning system takes in information about the past, make decisions or predictions when it is presented with new information. That is how people actually do. How will they predict the stock market and so on and so forth? They will feed certain information and they will say that this is all the likelihood that of the future. So that is where narrow artificial intelligence can actually come to play. Now, of course, there are different advantages as well. Now, we all know that, you know, it can serve us in so many important ways. Digital assistance, it has made life very easy. For instance, when you are driving your car and you don't want to look at the phone to avoid any accidents, you can just simply speak and say, call so-and-so, and you can even fix an appointment for that matter. So there are a lot of digital assistant, online shopping, medicine, and so on and so forth, even looking for, for jobs, and then also detecting crimes and so on and so forth. And very often, even for marriage alliances as well nowadays, right? If you, in the future, you want to look for your, partner, who will suit you better from a huge population, they will just filter in and say, this person, this person, this person will suit you. How easy, isn't it? During our time, we didn't have the assistance, but during your time now, you'll have such assistance. There is so much of hope in the future for you from an artificial intelligence point of view, right? But for me, maybe it'll help in my son's case. What are the positive examples of the use of AI? Now, I'll move very quickly. Now, yes, as I've mentioned, the iPhone, yeah, and the assistance from Siri, Amazon Alexa, and so on and so forth. AI may also transform such fields as healthcare as well. Nowadays, when back in the day when a doctor wants to, treat your teeth or anything like that, you might have to go for a head X-ray, and you will be exposed to certain harmful radiations as well. But in this context, in the context of the AI now, it can also revolutionize the health sector in such a way that it can also help detect or diagnose or do certain diagnosis that will not necessitate you to actually go and have an X-ray. So that is the kind of revolution that artificial intelligence in a narrow sense can play. But then there is also the negative examples of the use of AI. Now, what are those negative? Now, for instance, in China, I will not go through the entire material, but in China, you know that they have a lot of cameras to actually scan people. And so now, if you go in China, you will find that a few years ago, there was a huge protest by the people in China against the government for actually installing such cameras everywhere. Because the question that people are asking is, are you not violating our privacy, right? And imagine you are being watched everywhere you go. And you'll never know, even in your restrooms these days, you may have even hidden cameras as well, or different kinds of these detection. And then you also have Facebook, who in a few years ago, there was this case that was filed in the US where they had tinker along the lines of privacy, violating the privacy of individuals with regard to the advertisement. It was a big issue, but this was precisely the point. So there is a lot of adverse examples that we can see from the positive sides as well. So there are both pros and cons as well with regard to all of this. So we are not necessarily against these developments, but we just need to actually see in a good example, like, you know, weighing it, the pros and cons, the advantages and the disadvantages as well. So now, what is far more dangerous that we need to keep in mind is the desire that we all have for the super intelligence that certain people have in mind with regard to artificial intelligence. Now, there is this book called as Homo Deus, written by some philosophers and thinkers and scientists, and actually they have this to say. Yuval Noah, he actually wrote about the desire to upgrade human beings. You know, you must have seen the movie Robocops, yeah? And you find that at the end of the day, it is 70 to 80% machine and just 20 to 30% a human being. So this idea has come that, you know, this entire word of Homo Deus, it is trying to elevate and to do away with the limitations that we have as human beings and to upgrade, so that to enable man to do things which is unthinkable from a human point of view. Now, in one sense, you may think that, wow, that's great, right? Solving crimes like Robocops, it's nice. Just go anywhere, you see the potential of crime anywhere. But then, that raises a lot of question as well. But nevertheless, Yuval Noah said this: it will be necessary to change our biochemistry and to re-engineer our bodies and minds, so that we shall need to re-engineer Homo sapiens so that it can enjoy everlasting pleasure. Having raised humanity above the beastly level of survival struggles, we will now aim to upgrade humans into gods and turn Homo sapiens into Homo Deus. Now that is the scary part, right? Because you cannot just simply make leaps and jump into the future without thinking of the consequences that such a decision might actually entail. There's another thinker by the name of Max Tegmark. Max Tegmark, in his book Life 3.0, said this in one of his books, in his chapters. He said, success in the quest for artificial intelligence has the potential to bring unprecedented benefits to humanity, and it is therefore worthwhile to research how to maximize these benefits while avoiding potential pitfalls. So here is a sane voice that is trying to warn us of the danger of trying to actually advance without looking back. In a TED talk, he also said one important thing. This same person, Max, he said, in creating AI, we are birthing a new form of life with unlimited potential for good or for ill. You see, this is the danger that he's saying. That yes, advancement can be there, but it can be for good or it can be for ill. Let's look at some of the limitations. Now, AI has certain limitations, and one among them is the fact that artificial intelligence will lack sentience. Now, what is sentience? Sentience is the ability that we have to sense our environment, or the ability that we have to feel pain, to feel sadness. The machine, the artificial intelligence, will not have that. It will not have the capacity to feel. Now, in that context, do you even think that artificial intelligence and the capacity that it has to actually make advancement, will it be able to understand human being? Secondly, it will not have the ability of understanding. So philosopher John Searle from Berkeley University, he came up with this illustration of the Chinese room. He said, how intelligent is the artificial intelligence? He gave the example of a Chinese room. He said, in this Chinese room, imagine an English-speaking man being locked in this room, such as this, with all the boxes of information with symbols written in Chinese. But this Englishman does not understand any of that except to detect the symbols. And then somebody from the door would slip a piece of paper with symbols written in Chinese. And now this Englishman takes that piece of paper and try to decipher the information in that paper, and then looks at all the information that is there, pulls it out, and then feeds it again as an output. And then the person who takes the information out will have the impression that this machine inside is intelligent. And so he says that artificial intelligence does not have an innate intelligence except the information that has been fed into this very machine, and it does not have an intelligence of its own. And that is why he says that I don't think that this machine or this artificial intelligence can have an innate, that means a human-based intelligence as you and I have. That is the limitation. Then creativity. See, at the end of the day, machine will not have the same creativity that you and I may have. It will lack certain creativity. And that is why we need to keep in mind that these limitations and many others will actually have to be taken with utmost caution. Now let me move quickly because of shortage of time. I just want to actually spend some time with this important thing, that whatever it may be, whatever progress that we are making, we need to keep in mind the ethical questions that is before us. Now, yes, we may have certain ontological questions that is being answered and being addressed, but it will be better equipped to wrestle with the vast array of ethical issues that may arise. Now, what are those important questions? Here are a few important questions that I want to leave with you. Now, we talk about how machines today can drive vehicles, right? It can be self-driven. Yes, we are all very proud of that, and we say how today's science has advanced technologically. But then the question is, when an autonomous vehicle crashes, who will be held responsible? Right? That's a big question. Secondly, should lethal autonomous robots be permitted in warfare with their, different capacity that is different from human beings? How do we approach automation and possible job loss? Today we find that there is a lot of unemployment, and the unemployment basically is a reason of the fact that so much of machines have taken our job. And today, instead of having 10 people working on same thing, you can have one machine executing the entire thing, right? For instance, today when you look at a dishwasher that will clean dishes, and imagine when you buy that, you don't need anyone else to come and wash dishes in your home. Now, it may sound like, convenience for us, but think of the job loss for an ordinary person, an uneducated person who would rely and depend upon that income and support their children, right? So we need to think of some of these things as well. And then should we support efforts to develop artificial persons or machines that mimic humans or animals? Should we use robots for child and elder care? Now in Japan, because of population control, what they do, they have a robot who will take care of the elderly people. But is that something that we should think about? Is a question that we need to ponder. How do we navigate the privacy, transparency, and justice issues that rise as AI is applied to big data. And that is also an ethical question. How do we show care for those whose jobs are threatened by automation? Now, a word of caution: AI will never be sentient, not creative, nor have any understanding. AI will never have dominion over humans. AI will become dangerous. It will be the fault of humans who develop and use AI. Now, if it crosses and does anything that is beyond the command that has been issued, then who will be held responsible? Right? Is the question that we need to keep in mind. AI needs to be governed by ethics, and that is very, very essential. Limitations of AI are further evidence of human exceptionalism. You see, one important thing that we need to actually keep in mind is that there is no denial of the fact that all human beings are created. We all have creativity, we have understanding. We, in other words, we are all having the creativity because we are created in the very image of God, or the imago Dei, the idea of imago Dei. And a machine can never actually do that. And that is why it all the more exposes one important aspect of the uniqueness and the exceptionalism of human beings. And that is why, in the light of advancement technology, we need to always keep in mind that human beings are at any given day exceptional, unique, and we need to keep that in mind. And while we embrace advancement in technology, we need to do so with much caution and with much carefulness. So with that, I bring this to a close, and maybe I'll take questions if you have. And any questions, maybe not only necessary on this subject, but any question. You have 5 minutes, and yeah, any question? Any question? Do you normally ask questions in class? Yeah? So, please, anyone? Or any comments for that matter, not necessarily only question. We would like to hear you. It's nice coming all the way from the lands of the clouds, and it would be nice to just simply hear your feedback, your comments on this important issue as well. Let's see, any brave souls? I have my friend here, Zwala, also, if you would like to hear from him. So if you ask questions, then I will also let him also speak. Any questions? Yeah.
Still have a theory that AI can be dangerous to future humans. But is it in youth now? Like, can we learn any tricks that how we can come out of that if any AI thing happens?
Can we come up with some tricks?
Tricks, yeah, like learn new coding skills or anything that we can decode this AI things like that.
Any tricks that we can have to do one?
To
overcome the dangerous.
Or to overcome, any tricks to overcome? Well, I think that's a very nice question, first of all. I mean, in essence, what you are, please sit down. Yeah, in essence, what you are asking is there any way we can always be on top before, the machine takes over? I think, I don't think, I think the only trick is basically wisdom, I would say, that we would need to understand the difference between how much this machine can and cannot do, what it can do and what it cannot do. While at the same time we think nowadays, I don't know, I mean, when people say that, for instance, in the field of health, there is a lot of advancement in terms of laser operations that we can have, and people say that it is far more accurate than any other human being performing that operations. But nevertheless, I think, yes, we need to celebrate the ability yeah, or the contribution that science can actually help us in accomplishing something like that. But at the same time, I think when it comes to just simply having the wisdom, this morning I was reading a statistic which was very, very, I would say, filled with that sense of fear, in the sense that when I read this, it says that till the year 2000 to 2009, the statistic was the number of engagement, especially among young people and especially teens, who are much more younger than you, on the screen was much more lesser in terms of percentage. But now, from 2010 till today, that has tripled in terms of the amount of time that one spends on it. Now, what's the big deal, you may ask? And today, researchers have come out to say that those who have spent and are spending more time on screen and interaction with artificial intelligence as such, they have become so addicted that there are few important consequences that comes out of that. One, they tend to actually lose the skills of interacting with people one-on-one. That's the finding. Okay? So now spending so much time with machines that they do not know how to spend time with people. Now, you must have seen back in the day when I was young, we used to have this mobile phone, Nokia, right? And Nokia was connecting people. And yet, the irony of connecting people, you will find that people standing in public places and they are all on their phones, but they are not talking to each other. But they are always on the phone. Right? At that time, we didn't have screen where we can take photographs, and nowadays, in those days, people were always here talking. But nowadays, if you are coming, you see in the airport, the moment you see people, very interesting. I and my colleague, we were laughing. As soon as they announce the boarding of passengers into the flight, people will rush as if like they will miss the flight. Right? They will push, they will hustle, and once they reach there, they will take out their phone. They will not care whether selfie, right? They will do that. And so I find that sometimes they are not being careful and sensitive to another human being. Now that may seem to you like, oh, what's the big deal? But when you grow up, you will appreciate the help that you may get from your fellow human being. That's number one. That because of the statistic of too much of involvement. And then the other scary part of that statistic and that research work is that they say that people have the tendency and the rate of being suicidal is more among people who spend so much time on screen than with other people. Isn't that scary? Now, immediately for me, I didn't think about what would happen to everyone, like, all of you, if you were to spend. I was immediately thinking, how much time do I give my son to play on screen? Because sometimes, they're my son is just 9 years old. And so he knows how to butter, no? Sometimes he says, Papa, I finished my homework. Can I watch a little bit of mobile or iPad? Yeah, if I'm busy, I say, yeah, go ahead. But then now I begin to think, if he spends so much time there, the chances of him, spending so much time that he loses certain important quotient of, relationship. Please remember one, people used to say that, you need to have your IQ. After IQ, you know what came? They then said emotional intelligence, EQ. And now, today, people are not, for hiring people into the companies, they're not looking for IQ alone. They're not looking for emotional EQ alone. You know what they're looking now? They're looking for RQ, relational quotient. Now for many of you who are still in class and all, but if you are in some work, especially the corporate world, you will find that when we are having meeting, some people will always like, yeah, hello, as if like, it's so busy. But back in the day, when we normally have only the landline phone, you can imagine the conversation can be very difficult. Hello, long distance. Hello. Nowadays, you'll find that, hello means different things. Hello, if I don't want to talk to you, oh, the signal is very bad. Hello. and then later on say, cut. See, that is why I think we need to be very careful with regard to all of that. Yeah? Shall we close? 5 minutes. Okay. Do we have time to take one more question? One hand is there. Dr. Suresh, how much time?
It's the break time. They have another class at 11.
Okay, just this question. Shall we take this question? Yeah. Okay. Okay. What is the possibility of the AI developing a consciousness of its own? Now, that's a very good question. Yeah. See, let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. Okay, this is very important. Your question that you've asked. Please remember, young people, I would say, before we even look at the possibility of an AI developing its own conscience, I would actually tell you that it is very important that we need to actually know what is the worldview that we embrace to look at this important aspect. There are only two worldviews. See, a worldview is a pair of glasses that you normally use to interpret and to look at the world. You will have a philosophy of your own. Let me tell you, you are all here to learn, to get yourself educated, to get yourself a degree, so that this degree will be helpful in getting you a job in life, right? But this university will not give you a degree that will teach you how to save money, how to look for a life partner, how to live a noble life, right? It will not teach you. That you will have to learn on your own. And that is why a worldview can be very important. And there are two important worldviews. One worldview is there is no God. And how you look at life is God is out of the equation. You have thrown him out of the window. And so whatever you do in class, if God is not there, you can do whatever you like. There is no morality for your relationship. There is no morality of how you write your exams. Who cares? Because there is no one that you are accountable to. That's the one worldview. The other worldview is getting God inside and having God at the center of your worldview. Now, the question that your friend has asked is with regard to the machine being able to actually come up with a consciousness of its own. Now, the worldview that I subscribe to is the worldview that God is at the center. And I believe that without God in the equation, I cannot make sense of life. I cannot make sense of life. I cannot make sense of how I frame ethical framework for looking at machines. So I believe consciousness is a gift from the divine, right? And now for the machine, it is next to impossible that they will ever have a consciousness, because you cannot put anything there that is not there right from the very beginning, especially for us human beings to give consciousness to anything, no. Right? So, like for instance, someone said like this, a human being, a human couple can reproduce one. Someone of its kind, a human, right? You will not hear a human being giving birth to an animal. No, an animal will give birth to animal. So now, consciousness can come only from a particular kind. So human being can reproduce of its own kind. But a machine is a different kind. And that is why a machine will not be able to have a consciousness of its own. So, but it's a very good question. Thank you for asking. So thank you once again for giving me an undivided hearing. Thank you.